What's up, y'all? This is John and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Getting ready for G Day. We are excited because, unlike a lot of fan bases across college football, we will actually be able to watch our team spring game. And I would venture to say, chances are, unlike Florida, it won't end in a 45-45 tie where they can't win their own spring game.
Hey, we tied 20-20. Was
Yeah,
it
but
last? No, it was a couple years ago.
that's not as embarrassing as a 45-45 tie.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And when your own coach comes out and says, yeah, our offensive line has to get significantly better if we want to be competitive this year. It's not good.
No, I would venture to say that's very, very not good.
To be fair, John Summerall did make a similar comment about Tulane before the season last year. And we saw where they got. So,
Fair enough.
um, oh boy, I had a whole thought here. Anyways, G Day, getting ready for it. So we are going to do things differently this year because we are not going to be, or not only because we're going to be able to watch the game this year, unlike last year, but also Candler not able to get on with us this year because he is getting married this weekend.
Ooh,
Congratulations.
yeah,
Um,
congrats.
but so we're going to do different categories of players that just categories of players and what kind of like we would like to see, kind of what we expect or hope to see, and then categories of philosophic changes that we want to see within the play calling.
hmm
Um, but I realized what I forgot. How have you been? What are you drinking?
I have been pretty good. Pretty busy as always, but especially lately. But I have been good. We had Masters Week last week, which meant that we decided to be anywhere but Augusta. So we went all over the state doing day trips. Spent some time in Athens, spent some time in Statesboro, some in Milledgeville, some in Macon, um, which ties in pretty directly to what I'm drinking because I am. When I was in Athens, I picked up some of the Jittery Joe's limited edition AWS Fiddler tie-in with Jittery Joe's, that coffee. And I am currently drinking a maple latte made with that as the espresso. I only drink it in the evenings uh, because the smell is very potent when it comes to the bourbon, and I ain't walking into work with that on my breath.
Okay,
But
fair. Yeah.
it is very, very good and tastes like a good old spiked coffee.
I don't understand how you're drinking that at 9 o'clock and you don't work nights.
I'm not gonna sleep tonight is the answer.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah,
Um,
but
yeah,
worth it because it's good.
I have cut back so much on my caffeine intake um over the last few months that like I had a Diet Coke when we went to Sam's Club earlier, and I felt the caffeine. And I was like, "Yo, I haven't had
Oh
this
man.
feeling in like a decade. This is what caffeine feels like." Um, but yeah, no, it's been busy for us. Last week at work, last couple of weeks been nuts getting new software, training a new guy, um, and then on top of just the constant workload. But I did find time to go to a concert last Tuesday, so I'm not too old to go to
Ooh,
weekday concerts yet. But
nice.
if you are on Instagram and the thing that's been common, at least that I've seen and that other people have sent to me, is like the "Remember Who You Are" white boy thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a rock song in the background. That's the band that we went to see, Dexter and the Moon Rocks.
Nice.
Great band, put on a good show, and then Cigarettes at Sunset, which
It's a
another Instagram
great
reel,
name.
yeah, and another Instagram reel heavy band open for them, and then I found a new one is the like the first opener, which is High June. recommend them. But Cigarettes at Sunset, they call themselves Appalachian Possum Rock,
Love it.
and then Dexter and the Moon Rocks is Western Space Grunge.
Also love that.
So yeah, I'm in. I liked both of them before I saw them live, but after the show, they're still small time enough to where they like stood by their merch tables and they
Oh, those are
actually
the
sold
best.
their own merch and took pictures. And like the lead singer of High June, when his favorite Dexter and the Moon Rock song came on, like he came over and stood by where I was standing and like put his arm around me and took a video of the song. And it was like,
That's awesome.
that's man, that's why people come to live shows
Yeah,
is the
that's exactly
interaction.
it. Yeah.
So
Well, while we're doing music plugs, one of my favorite bands, called The Maine, spelled like the state, just put out a new album that is excellent.
yeah,
Uh, from start to finish. So if anyone wants to check that out, if you're into like, indie rock that you can't quite fit into a genre, you should check that out.
yeah. Check out all the bands we mentioned tonight if that's your
Yes.
vibe.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like they're all in that camp somewhere.
But getting into G Day, and we do have a disclaimer. I think we've done this every year because we didn't really talk about G Day last year because it wasn't going to be on TV. None of us were going. It's just kind of a
Hmm.
bummer. But disclaimer: we understand that this is a spring game. We understand that this is first team offense playing the first team defense, and the second team units doing the same thing. And the coaches know that fans want more offense. The coaches also know they can't actually hit anybody very hard.
Hmm.
The priority for spring games is to get full speed live reps for everybody on the team and come out with no injuries. That's it. That
Yep.
is the entire purpose of the spring game. We know that things that we see this weekend more than likely are not going to translate to the season itself. We are still going to get very excited and we are still going to
Yeah.
overreact.
Because it's all we got of this team
Correct.
until September.
Correct.
So yeah, we're gonna overreact.
Like, for example, and this is something that, I'm not necessarily saying I hope happens, but if and when it does, I guarantee you I will be one of the most hyped up people not related to this man. If Jamarly Riddle gets an interception against
Mm,
either the first team or second team, I will be hyped up. Like I will be I will be top 5% of hyped up Georgia
yeah.
fans
Yeah.
should that
There's
happen.
another guy. There's another guy we're gonna talk about later where any touch that this guy gets, I'm gonna be standing up. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
I would venture to say that for a long time we have been the highest podcast on that individual. We haven't even talked about it, and I know who you're talking about. So different categories. We have cemented stars, which are starters that they like, no question about it. They are absolutely stars. They are starters. Then we have probable starters slash transfers looking to make a name. And I will say all transfers that have a chance to make an impact are going in this category because I think they need to be talked about towards the top of this because Georgia only takes transfers that they think they need.
hmm
Um, and then third category, guys fighting for a spot. Guys that there's an opening, they are in the mix for that opening, and they have the ability to take it. Um, and then last philosophic changes that we want to see. And I'm sure there's a couple of names that I don't have any notes for that we're going to talk about just because guys being dudes.
it's gonna come
But
up,
for sure. So, very first cemented star is Gunnar Stockton. The
obviously.
man was top 10 in the Heisman voting last year and somehow is being called the seventh best quarterback in the country. I've seen him as the fifth best quarterback in the SEC. And
People are still ranking him below Arch Manning. Looking at you, Aaron, because we're
yeah, I
still
don't.
it's an off season, so we got to pretend Arch Manning is good.
Right. I just look, guys. I understand that Gunner fell off towards the end of last season a little bit.
A
You know
little
what
bit.
else fell off at the end of last season? The health of the offensive line.
Hmm
When you have 3 to 4 backups in, depending on the play, your quarterback's not going to
Some might
perform as
say
well.
there's a connection.
Right. Like I don't. You're not in the playoffs. If you are down three offensive linemen, you're not going to be able to protect your quarterback as well. You're not going to be able to pass as many deep balls. Like it's just some facts about the way that the game of football is played that I feel like people choose to ignore for the narratives that they want to push.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of that, let's talk about what Steve Smith had to say about
what
Gunnar
did he have
Stockton.
to say? I'm sure with Steve Smith, it was a very rational, level-headed take that had nothing to do with getting his name back in the headlines after he's been out of them for so long.
Yeah, this is just something along the lines of if I were Dylan Bell, I would have just sat on the bench and not played last year until I got a better quarterback who knew how to throw the ball. I'm paraphrasing, but that is pretty much exactly what he said. And Steve, because I know you're listening, I'm just going to level with you here. Um, I had not thought about you in years until you started saying this stuff about my quarterback and about my offensive coordinator, which, is probably why you said them in the first place.
Yeah,
Congratulations on being one of the best receivers in the NFL when my TV still had a VCR on it and when you could just kind of be told to go run around and get open, but that's not how football works anymore.
correct. Oh,
So you're
hey,
no different from the couch coaches that are sitting here bashing Mike Bobo all the time. Not that there's no good reason to bash him, but
correct. Um, Ronald just got a pretty big hit in this game. It was
mm,
a few feet from being a home run, and man, their left fielder goes to like slide feet first, but like face up and catch this fly ball in the outfield, and then his butt hits the ground and his cleats dig, and he just does not move anymore. And the ball hits in front of his glove and bounces off. I,
was that a base hit or an error? Who knows?
uh, Ronald's on second base is all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
that's what
Um,
matters.
Also, if you're watching on YouTube, you see the Ghost Pirates hat. Made the playoffs for the first time as a franchise this
Let's
year.
go.
Still have a game to play, and if they win the game on Friday, they remove home field advantage from one of the most heated rivals of the team.
Love
So,
that.
yeah, I'm all in. I don't, to be fair, I think they've only won like two games in alternate jerseys this year. Uh,
Hmm.
I highly, highly doubt that they're going to win on Friday, but it would be awesome.
That
Uh,
that it would be.
and then the second home playoff game is Kelsey's birthday and a
Ooh,
Friday, so we're going to go out to the bar beforehand. It's, I'm excited.
love
Home
that.
hockey playoff games that I have tickets to. I'm in. I'm all in. Anyways, second bullet point of the entire outline here. 14 minutes in. Nate Frazier, top tier SEC running back. I don't like. Sure, is Ahmad Hardy probably a better overall running back? Maybe. Uh,
Maybe.
Kawan Lacey, maybe. But I would say Nate is easily top three as far as returning running backs in the SEC. And the main thing that I want to see from Nate Frazier, because I don't really have any questions, is the ball not to touch the ground.
Yeah, that would be my biggest area of improvement for him too, which a lot of
And
people are harder on him for that than they should be.
right, and that's kind of what I was about to get at, is that the perspective about Nate Frazier is skewed because of the Alabama game.
Hmm.
Was that a massive fumble in a massive game? Sure.
Yeah.
Did that define his entire season? Absolutely not. But given that, good lord, I think my cat just tried to battering ram the door down. He weighs like 9 pounds. Um. Uh. But yeah, it's the off season. People have things to talk about. People are looking for things to complain about. Nate Frazier, the one thing that people are going to remember from his last season is not the incredible plays he made, the runs that he kept alive by bouncing off tackles. It's going to be the one fumble that you could argue had an effect on the outcome of the game.
Hmm.
But it's still something I want to see because that was a problem his freshman year, came up a couple of times last season, and I think it's going to continue to get better. And I'm not super worried about it, but it is something that I want to see. Um, Next, KJ Bolden, one of the best safeties in the country, definitely one of the best in the SEC. I'm interested to see how he does in more one-on-one coverage against tight ends. That's really kind of something that I want to hone in on is how he is one-on-one against tight ends. It's not necessarily a position that I expect him to be in a lot, but I think given the opponents that Georgia has this season, that's something that he's going to be asked to do, and I want to see how he does it.
Yeah, granted, he's still not going to face many better tight end rooms than the one that he's facing on G Day.
Right.
So
And
we'll have a pretty good idea how he handles that by the end of this, I'm sure.
right. And that's kind of why I want to hone in on it so much because I don't really know of a better tight end room in the SEC than Georgia's. Um, and if he can play well, I'm not asking him to be like prime Darrell Revis in these
Right.
moments because these guys like Elias Williams, he's Darnell Washington size with Brock Bowers speed and mobility. You're not locking that guy down. If he wants
No.
to get out there, he's getting out there, right? So I don't necessarily expect to see Revis Island, but I want to see you being at the right place at the right time. And this guy's just busy, maybe bigger and more physical than you. Like that's fine. Being in the right place at the right time on tight end route specifically is kind of what I'm looking to see. Raylan Wilson. I will say the only reason that he is not a household name is because C.J. Allen was on the team. I
Fair.
I think Raylan Wilson is one of the best inside linebackers in college football. He's elite, but similar to KJ, I want to see how he is in coverage against running backs because I think with a healthy offensive line, and especially given that a lot of mm, given that there's been a lot of competition in the offensive line room, that's the phrase that I was looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
Um, but I think the first and second team offensive lines are going to be good in this game. And given that, I think there's going to be a lot more passes to the running backs versus keeping the running backs in to protect. So I want to see how Raylan is one on one against running backs. I, and this kind of is a linebacker core just general thing is how I want to see how they do against running backs. But with Raylan going to be the guy leading that group, kind of want to see him in particular and how he does it.
Right. That makes
Um,
sense.
and then the last guy that I have as a cemented star is Elijah Griffin. Uh, he's absolutely a starter. For him to have played as much on the defensive line as a true freshman as he did is pretty uncommon in the Kirby Smart era. But I do want to pay closer attention to how he reacts to the running backs and if Gunner gets loose. Like his pursuit, I guess. It's kind of what I want to hone in on as far as Elijah goes. The pursuit and how quickly he can turn a run stopping play into a pass rush play from the
Hmm.
interior. Um, so, do you have any other notes on the cemented stars?
I think one sort of glaring omission, which maybe you could argue he's not quite cemented yet, but I would have liked to see Lawson Lucky being considered there because he made a name for himself in a very strong fashion last year, and he is kind of the number one guy going into this now, and I think he's due for something big.
So, he is not in here for the main reason of in the middle of typing out the cemented stars, I ended up focusing on things that I wanted to see from specific guys instead of just like
Just
the
listing
big
all of them.
stars.
Makes
Um,
sense.
and the thing about the tight end room that I want to see is actually in the philosophic changes, not the individuals.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. That checks out. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and so like don't get me wrong, I absolutely want to see force fed Lawson and Elias and Ethan Barber and all those guys that when they were asked to do it last year were insanely good, but the question was just not asked often enough.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the reason the tight ends aren't in any of these really. Is just I don't necessarily think it's a tight end problem. I think it's a coaching problem.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, So, probable starters slash transfers looking to make a name. Probably could have done two categories out of this once I got done with it. I didn't, so it's one category. Um, so we got Taylor. And I know as Georgia fans, he gets clowned on quite a bit because of the big
Hmm.
drop he had. And it doesn't help that as Georgia fans, we just saw a guy with the exact same jersey number and the same player profile drop more passes than we thought was humanly possible.
Right.
But let's be real here. That would have been a top five most important catch of the 2020s for the University of Georgia.
Can't argue
So
with that.
you've got A.D. Mitchell's two huge catches, National Championship game 21, Peach Bowl 22. Arian Smith's big uncontested catch, and where he took both of those guys or both of that guy's ankles 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, and nobody else thought to cover him. You have Keely Ringo's pick six in the 2021 National Championship game. And then you probably have that one had it been completed. So you're asking a true freshman in what that was his fourth game ever wearing a
Hmm.
Georgia football jersey. You ask a true freshman his fourth game in college to make that catch when he didn't get consistent playing time in the first three games.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fall back on Taylor has the trust of the coaches that know more than we do. He had all of the tangible qualities in a player that you were looking for out of high school. And if we're being honest, he's bought into the program. It's a guy that played a few games last year, got hurt. All we heard is that he's rehabbing, trying to get back on the field. Even in a very limited role, he was trying to get back on the field as quickly as possible. And then I'm sure there were suitors in the transfer portal offering
Hmm.
7+ figure deals. And he stayed. And in
Yeah.
this day and age, if you are talking about a true freshman that has that ability, that stays after not getting a lot of playing time, they're bought in. And it's something that you see at Georgia more than other schools. He deserves more respect than he's getting. And I am going to make a vow for the podcast that we are going to give that to him moving forward. Now, if he looks like 2024 Arian Smith in the spring game, this man has more drops than catches. There's another conversation that needs to be had.
Hmm.
But if it is not that bad, we are putting more respect on his name.
And I don't think it will be. You saw him get a little more comfortable towards the end of last season, a little
Right.
bit better. He had a few games where you weren't really calling his name after that, which I mean, fair. Who wouldn't be in their head after that? Um, but then he sort of started slotting into that offense more comfortably. I expect him to be a little more comfortable in there this time.
Right. And then another guy that made his name known towards the end of the season, but I truly think that the reason that this guy didn't get more playing time last year is because his his player profile fit closer into something that Georgia already had last year. And that's C.J. Wiley. It's a highly touted guy out of high school. I want to say he's the highest rated wide receiver to commit to Georgia since George Pickens. Um, but he is a taller, lankier guy, not necessarily a 50-50 ball, but more of a route runner, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, and taller, lankier route runners. How many of those did Georgia have on the team last year? Like four.
Yeah.
Right. And who are you going to take playing time away from? You going to take? Are you taking it away from Dylan Bell or
No,
or London Humphreys?
I don't
Like,
think so.
right. And so some of these guys have gone. London is still here, another guy that bought into the program pretty quickly. But I think CJ Wiley's going to get his chance because Georgia rotates wide receivers unlike any other team in the country. Um, Sometimes to a detriment, but and this is something that Kirby Smart brought up the other day. If Georgia, I think, has one or two pass catchers drafted this year, they have the most in the 2020s.
Mm.
Um, and I would have to pull up the exact stat to get it, and I think I may have sent it to the group chat. Um, and if I didn't send it to the group chat, then I'm a dummy because I try to do that to everything that I want to talk about on the podcast. Um, all right, I think I'm a dummy. Okay, nope, here it goes.
There we are.
If my Wi-Fi will act right. Um, Here we go. There's only one team that has more wide receivers drafted than us over 7 years. That's a pretty good stat. When you throw in tight ends, pass catchers in general, we're first over 7 years. When you look at passing, we're top two in the SEC over the last five.
Some might say that's good.
Some might say. And that was actually in direct response when a reporter asked him about the Steve Smith quote. Just interesting little tidbit there. Um, but kind of in the same vein, uh, Isaiah Canyon, um, because I think the coaching staff quite literally said Colby Young was probably the second most important person not named Gunnar Stockton on the offense last year. We need another Colby Young, and
Yeah.
they went out and got Isaiah Canyon.
Yeah.
Um, I mean that's really it. I I think that's exactly what he is was brought in to fill on the offense, and I think that he's. I hope that he's bought in. You haven't really heard anything about him, but the same thing was said about Colby Young in his first spring. Like nobody said his name, and then I think over the last 2 years he's got the most touchdowns for the University of Georgia. Um, I could be wrong about that stat, but like if you take 24 and 25 combined, I think he's up there. So I'm really excited to see him play, and especially when you take one from the nerds, it feels so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Next guy, Dante Dowdle. He's a bruiser brought in for a short size for short yardage situations like Josh McCray last year. Where's Georgia without Josh McCray? Losing to Tennessee, probably not winning the SEC. Just facts about it. Josh McCray
Yeah.
may not have had a ton of yards last year, but he had some of the most important plays of the season. Um, Amaris Williams. Now, this is an interesting one because everything that's come out of spring camp has been not great, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's the leaked audio of Kirby talking about Elias Williams blowing Amaris off the ball. Um, and then, I've heard some other things about how he doesn't seem to be as prepared as they had thought coming out of Auburn. Um, but here's the thing: when the lights came on last year, Maris Williams is good at his job.
Yep.
Turned the runs back inside, got after the quarterback. He didn't make a ton of sacks last year. It's just a fact of it. But when you just asked him to go out there and be an athlete and attack the football, he was very good. So he may be one of those guys that don't practice well but perform well in the games. We don't know, but that's what I'm hoping because if he was not mentally or physically prepared from Auburn and still played that well against big time opponents, it's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Um, but it's something that's come out from players that have graduated from Georgia is that you have to learn how to practice at Georgia. It's not
Hmm.
like other places. You have to learn how things work to be able to get everything out of practice. And I hope it's one of those learning curves. But if it's not, Georgia potentially has Maris for 2 years. Um, but I hope he's able to make that immediate impact because we need it in the pass rush.
For sure.
And so for transfers, I have an entire tier of just defensive backs
Let's go. All right.
because Georgia got four big name defensive backs out of the portal this past year. Starting off the top, a guy that at least I have been very outwardly excited to see play just because of the role that he is going to fill on the team. Jamarly Riddle. Um, he's like I said, he's the guy that I'm most excited about because of his similar play style to other great star defenders from Georgia or safeties. He plays a lot like Javon Bullard. I'm not going to
Oh,
project him to be a Javon Bullard, but
I
he's
like
one of
hearing
those.
that though.
He's based on what he did at ECU, and I understand it's ECU, but ECU was, I would say, a top, maybe not elite tier, but very good tier Group 5 team last year.
Hmm.
Um, and the way that he played is every time there was a pass to his section of the field, he either had a hand on the ball or was hitting the guy who caught it with so much conviction that they questioned if they wanted to play football again.
Hmm. That rings a bell.
Yep. And that, I mean, like I said, he plays like Javon Bullard. I'm not saying he's physically like him. I'm not saying that he's capable of being Javon Bullard, but that's the way that he plays the game. Um, next guy up, Gentry Williams, a guy who had a lot of promise and a great freshman year at Oklahoma before he was injured. And then Oklahoma and Brent Venables, one of the things that they do to a very similar level as Georgia at this point, it is recruit defensive back. And he went from great freshman out a year, and then guys had been recruited over him because they'd gotten there and been able to play and had more experience. And that's
Hmm.
why he was in the portal. So I think he can be very, very good. The question is, will he have the opportunity again? Um,
Right.
I hope he does. I really hope that this is like a series by series throwing these guys in with the first team defense. Like I am much more worried about the secondary than I am about Gunner Stockton.
Facts.
So I would rather see a Gunner Stockton high completion percentage, but like 150-yard game than
Which
than I'd rather.
a lot of the Panicans will not like that when it comes to Gunner Stockton, but they can get over it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it would tell me more about the trajectory of this team if the defensive backs, which are the biggest question on the team in my opinion, than if the defensive backs gave up 350 yards passing.
Hmm.
Like that tells me the 350 yards passing would tell me more than if Gunner went like 10 for 12 for 150.
Right.
So I'm hoping 10 for 12 for 150, and then the running backs go off and that sort of thing. But anyways, getting into safety, Khalil Barnes. Clemson fans were happy to get rid of him. He's um oh oh he's got the all-time interceptions record for Georgia.
Um,
You
oh
know
man, now you
exactly what
put
I'm
me on the
talking
spot.
about.
I do. I do.
He wore number 24.
Golly, I'm gonna sound like such an idiot for Googling this thing. Dominic Sanders.
Dominic Sanders. Okay. Khalil Barnes plays a lot like Dominic Sanders. He he's a ball hawk that may not be the best in coverage. Like if he's not getting a hand on the football, he may not make the play. And that's the way he played at Clemson. Georgia may have trained that out of him because a selfish player on the back end is something that Kirby hates more than potholes and taxes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the absolute worst thing to him. But there was something about Khalil Barnes that Kirby was confident enough in to get out of the portal. But as far as the Clemson side of it goes, Khalil Barnes was not the worst part of your team last year. I highly doubt he was the top 10 worst part of your team last year. Why you were excited to get rid of a very highly ranked safety when the rest of your team kind of needs help is beyond me. But
Yeah. Thanks, I guess.
right, like if we were ranking Colts in college football, Clemson would be top 5. So
Yeah, I mean they
y'all are
wouldn't be
weird over there.
one, but
And the last guy, Braylon Conley. And to me, he's the biggest question mark out of the defensive back transfers because the team he played for, how well they played, and then also the coach that specifically brought him over. So if you don't know about Braylon Conley, he was a corner for Southern California. Everything about that should just be a red flag, if
mm-hmm.
we're being honest. Lincoln Riley, cornerback, is not known to be good. And then we have Dante Williams, who, as a podcast, we're not big fans of,
No.
was his defensive back coach at USC, and now he is the defensive backs coach at Georgia and brought him from USC, where he recruited Braylon, to
Mm,
Georgia. This is red flags and question marks all over the place. I don't know how I feel about it, just being completely honest. But Kirby believes in these guys. I believe in Kirby.
mm-hmm.
That waters it down to a probably less than 50% trust. But I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I will
doesn't
say,
doesn't doesn't make me feel super confident.
right.
But again, as you say, Kirby generally knows what he is doing, particularly with those positions.
But at the same time, just, to kind of remind everybody going into G Day of where the defensive backs room is. Ellis Robinson, obviously up there.
Mm-hmm.
DeMello Jones. I think those are the 1 and 2 right now.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're looking for a third guy, right? And you have all the guys that have been recruited over the last few years. Jamarly Riddle, who I think is fantastic. Gentry Williams, or Gentry, however you pronounce his first name, probably should have looked that up already. Um, who I also think is fantastic. And then you're talking about the next guy. At the same time, is he going to transfer to safety? All right, KJ Bolden, Rayshon Dinkins. Like, I'm not super worried. Like I
yeah.
think truly Braylon Conley is fighting for like DB5 this
Right,
season
right.
and hopefully progressing into a guy next season is kind of where I'm at with that. But
Yeah.
I think at best he's probably DB5 right now. All right. Next we have guys fighting for a spot. At the top, we have Sokovia Whitehelm.
Big Sokovia Whitehelton fans here.
I would say we are probably the biggest Sokovia Whitehelton podcast on the airwaves. Um,
I will take that title gladly.
we so it started when he started following your page on Instagram and actually interacting and like commenting back and stuff like that. And then we got to see him play a few times and in the return game specifically. And then over the last couple of weeks, everything that's come out about him, he's been brought to press conferences to be a voice for the program. he's doing everything the right way.
Yeah.
And it is, I think that has made us feel significantly better about being fans of his. Is
For
the way
sure.
that he's gone about everything. And then I'll say this: I think he is the type of I think Jacoby White-Helton is the type of guy that programs used to be built on. I think this is what programs try to still be built on because this is the guy that's bought in and not bought.
hmm
But on top of being a guy that programs still strive to be built on, he's also a great wide receiver, and I think fills the role that Dylan Bell and potentially Zachariah Branch leave a gap as they go off into the NFL.
Which is big shoes to fill for sure.
Correct, but
For this guy. But
the
he's been around this program for so long. I genuinely, I mean, we saw even shades of it last. Zachariah Branch was on the team and healthy pretty much all season last year, and Jacoby White-Helton was still getting in important downs
mm-hmm,
towards the end of the season last year in Zachariah Branch's position, which
yeah,
should tell you a lot about how much he's trusted.
yeah, and from he's one of the guys that through all of the issues that Georgia's had over the years with the driving thing, like as a Georgia podcast and as people who we are both fairly good friends of people that are not Georgia fans, but other teams fans, we hear it almost daily. Oh, what about the driving thing? Sokovia White-Helton's one of the few guys that hasn't been in any trouble. There's been no
Yep.
conversations about him outside of football.
hmm
And in this era of where, like, oh, did you hear about that NIL deal? Or, oh, this guy went out and did something crazy. I like
hmm
my headphones disconnected. Hold.
Oh
Oh,
no.
no. Yep. So we are probably getting your last couple of sentences uh,
Yeah.
double because they're coming out of my computer.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
I
was
was
while
while
you
you
get
get
that
that
together,
together,
I
I
was
was
just
just
gonna
gonna
say,
say,
we
we
used to
used to
talk a
talk a
lot
lot
about
about
guys
guys
like
like
Scooby
Scooby
Watt
Doo
on
on
that
that.
that 2021 2022 run. We would talk about guys who have character. You know, you look at a guy like Jordan Davis who just has a personality and a character and a wholesomeness to him that even with that other stuff going on, he was a really solid rock and a leader for this team. I feel like you've got that in several people on this team going into this year, Gunnar Stockton especially, but Sokovia White, I feel like is one of those guys who, in all likelihood, has the respect to the locker room, not just because he can play and catch a ball and run, but also because he is just such a great dude and a great character.
And I just heard the last few things you said, but I agree with them 100%.
All right.
Next up in the guys fighting for a spot, Bo Walker. And I will say the only reason he's fighting for a spot is because of how well Georgia has always recruited at the running back position. I think now I do think that Bo has a great chance to be great this year because his player profile does not necessarily it doesn't align with anybody else that Georgia has in that room that's necessarily ahead of him right now.
hmm
And that's because his power and speed combined with his lateral agility is like there's a reason he was a 5 star. Like, and that's just kind of what it is. Like
hmm
Chauncey is fantastic. Nate is fantastic. Peanut fantastic, right? Like I'm not taking anything away from any of those guys.
Right.
But what Bo Walker has shown is different. The
hmm
balance that he displayed last year, and I understand it was against a lesser competition team, but the balance he displayed last year in some of these where he's rolling off of tackles is something that if we had been able to see that against better competition in some of these games where the offensive line was banged up, could have potentially changed the outcome of some of these games. Yeah, I'm very excited, and I really want to see what he does. He's when the rosters come out on Friday, he's probably going to be with the second team. But this is the way that Georgia kind of does the defense because of the amount of rotation they do. Is it'll be 4 or 5 starters from the front seven on the first team, and then like the two deep guys that rotate in and get half of the snaps are on the second team as starters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he's going to be going up against not starters or scrubs or like fourth team guys. He will still be going up against SEC caliber players, and I am very interested to see how he can perform in that position.
Yeah, no notes other than just I feel like he's going to do it there. There's another guy that I added to this list just because of how much he seems to be talked about behind the scenes, and that's Caden Porthrow. Um,
Is it Porthrow or
from
Prothrow?
but I'm not sure. Maybe I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. That is entirely possible.
Dyslexia, we all have it.
Yeah, but it is yeah, Sex Daily. I've got it too. But he is a
Prothrow.
freshman pro throw. Okay. He's a freshman tight end, came in as a tight end, but he's crazy athletic, and rumor is they're planning on lining him up in the slot a good bit. Sounds like somebody else who used to play for us. So again, our tight end room just continues to be stacked. And just be nice to see him get some touches out there with the rest of the guys fighting for a spot.
You know, and this is something that I feel like all the Georgia media that I consume is not talking about enough.
Hmm.
The tight end room is insane, right? Like you have already talked about it. We've hit on it once before, but and this is me drawing conclusions and patterns that probably don't exist. Darnell Washington, right?
Hmm.
He was in, he was the class before Brock Bowers. It's mostly used to block the year before Brock Bowers got on campus. Just like not one, but two guys last year, and Ethan
Yeah.
Barber and Elias Williams, who are very similar in size to Darnell Washington. And now you have the number one tight end in the country coming in, who is reportedly just as, if not more, athletic than Brock Bowers. He may look. Brock Bowers is the greatest tight end to ever play college football, undisputedly. I
Yeah.
think.
No one's arguing with that one.
And this guy is drawing actual comparisons by not Georgia people with his level of athleticism at the tight end position. So, you know,
Should tell you something.
exactly. Very, very excited. Um, you know what? We'll go ahead and get into the philosophic change that I want to see around the tight end room. More tight end and running back passes that are not screens. I think we have the personnel to do it at an exceptional level. And I understand that part of the problem last year was the constant changing at O line, and they didn't always trust the line to protect Gunner for these slower, longer developing plays. I understand that. But going into this season, they're healthy. Going into Saturday, they're healthy.
Yeah.
And I would argue that this tight end room is one of, if not the most talented tight end rooms of all time at Georgia. And why would you not take advantage of that? You have guys that spent all of last season blocking, and a guy that last season showed in a team that made the semifinal against the team that made the semifinal, they can go out and catch 3 touchdowns. And then you have true freshmen that are being like not Georgia fan compared to the greatest tight end to ever play college football.
Yeah.
Throw to the tight ends. You have, I would argue, one of the more proven and healthy running back rooms since 2019. And you know what the best running back room before this year did? They threw him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Zamir White and James Cook got a lot of passes out of the backfield
Oh yeah.
because those guys were more athletic than the people covering them. And I think that is the exact same case for the current running back room.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest change that I want to see on the offense. Like, get away from the screens. There are other quick developing plays.
There are plenty of things you can do on 3rd and 14
Yeah.
that are not screens.
Well, not even like first play of the game. We do not need a wide receiver screen. We don't. Like, I'll be honest, man. Give me a slant. Give me a 3 yard slant
Yeah.
to one of these super athletic guys that you're paying millions of dollars to play football.
Steve Smith used to love those.
Give me a just for example. Give me a Jacoby White Helton 3 yard slant and let that man go to work.
Yeah,
You
they'll
pay
make it
him.
15. Yes.
You pay him. Let him show up to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's the biggest problem that I have with the offense is the amount of screens, not letting the guys be athletes.
Yeah.
And
But you can be an
then
athlete off a screen. Zachariah Branch proved that. But you can also be an athlete in a lot of other areas of the field.
right. And then it's not necessarily my biggest issue with the offense, but something that I would love to see this Saturday, especially in a situation where he can't get hit. I want to see Gunnar Stockton intentionally moved outside of the pocket. I
Mm-hmm.
know they're not going to let him run a whole lot. The first guy to put a hand on him, he's down. Cool. Non contact jersey. But you can still show some boot motions and some play action where he moves the pocket and moves the pocket to throw and not just run the ball like it ended up
Yeah.
being late last year. Like we saw the best plays in the Sugar Bowl are when Gunner would get outside of the pocket and rip it to one of these tall physical tight ends or wide receivers that get paid millions of dollars to play football.
Yep.
Let these guys be athletes.
Yeah, you see, we're not asking for too much, y'all.
Right. Like, honestly, some of the best plays of the entire season last year were guys being dudes playing backyard football. Like, outside of the
And
confines of the
including Gunnar
offense.
Stockton. Including Gunnar Stockton.
Right. And when the offense breaks down and there's no more confines and Gunner's just running to his right, needing to throw the football. There was that Colby Young play for a first down in the Sugar Bowl. That's immediately off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Of just guys being dudes and being athletic enough to make it work. And then my biggest thing that I want to see on the defense is a pass rush.
Yeah.
And once again, I know it's G Day. They won't actually allow contact to the quarterbacks. But I would love to see one of these fantastic outside linebackers or defensive ends, or even an inside linebacker on a blitz, just break through the line and see fear in the quarterback's eyes for a minute before he
Yeah.
realizes I can't get hit. Like I want this front to scare people again.
Yeah.
I
My note is pretty similar on that front because I want to see this on both sides, but I want to see some explosive highlights after the game is done.
yeah,
Whether that looks like somebody exploding towards the quarterback or blowing up a play in the backfield, or that looks like a Nate Frazier ripping a 50-yard run or whatever it looks like. I don't care. I just we didn't get nearly enough. We got some very solid fundamental football out of this Georgia football team last season, and we had some like crazy moments that made us jump out of our seats. We had a few top 10 games in the last 5 years to me this past season from some huge moments.
yeah,
But I want to see that explosiveness throughout the whole game this coming season. I want to see us being willing to wreck folks on both sides of the ball again.
yeah. And I really do not think that they're that far off. I think,
No.
and I'm not sure if we have talked about this a whole lot on the podcast, but I know we've talked about it like privately in different group chats and texts and that sort of thing. Last year, I think a lot of the problem was the inexperience on both sides of the ball. And
Hmm.
Kirby values experience more than he values God given talent.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the problem was that he wouldn't let guys be athletes at a certain point. Like you
Hmm.
had to play within the confines of the scheme, and the scheme gets tightened down based on the experience that each group has, right? And this is something we've seen over time. Like throw it back to 2017. How many games did Jake Fromm throw more than 25 passes?
I'd have to look, but it ain't many.
Right. It's the Rose Bowl where it was necessary.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think Auburn, where the offensive
We
line was just
were,
paper mache that day.
yeah, we were playing from down. Yeah.
Like, because he didn't have the experience that Kirby trusted. And they were still winning games. And Nick and Sony both had incredible seasons that year. So I don't want to take anything away from any of that. But just if you look into the way that Kirby Smart coaches football teams, he values experience. And when your defensive line is the most inexperienced that it has been your entire tenure as a head coach, you're not going to say pin your ears back and go get the quarterback.
Hmm.
It will not happen. Now, I think that last season helped CJ Allen become a first round draft pick because he was told the entire front seven is yours up to this point,
Hmm.
and he controlled that side of the field. But that's kind of getting way into the weeds of thoughts that I have. But I think it was inexperience on both lines of scrimmage that limited the offense and defense last year. They were not Kirby was not going to allow Juan Gaston at right tackle to go one on one against a 3 year SEC starter that's going to be a first round draft pick and say, I need you, Mr. 18-year-old Juan Gaston, to go up against that guy that's about to be a first round draft pick for 5 seconds and let Gunner rip this deep ball. It's just, it's not part of
Yeah.
it. Kirby values experience over anything else, and that can be a detriment at times. And so hopefully this year, more experience on both sides of the line, more experience at quarterback, running back, everything. Bringing in what 5 different defensive backs to allow more one-on-one coverage on the outside and get that pass rush. So
Hmm.
I'm excited. G Day is one of my favorite days of the spring. Um, I will say I'm sad there are home baseball games this weekend. No, there's not.
Okay.
Um, they're playing Arkansas this weekend, but I'm
Oh,
just
fun.
I'm disappointed that the concert at Sanford there are no home baseball games because
Ah.
I was going to try to go to Sunday. Uh, I think they planned the schedule for John's going to be in town this weekend. We absolutely cannot have a baseball
Can't,
game.
yeah, can't give him too much fun.
Been to Athens 3 times since the season started, and they've been away series every time.
Ah.
Um, but we are really excited. I'm excited to see you, Caleb, here in a few weeks for the Best of Savannah event. Um, I will have a gift for you when that comes.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
we
I
gonna be showing up in style to this event.
love it. All right.
Um, but that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We want to thank you guys for everything you've done to help us out. I'm not sure how or why, but over the last few months, our numbers have been the best they have quite literally ever been,
Wow.
um, with no explanation in the off season, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So
Of all times. That's
thank you
crazy.
guys. We're going to try and get some guests here soon. And normally right after spring is when we start our Punchers Chant series, which is one of from everything from the numbers and our feedback. It's one of y'all's favorites that we do every year, um, and hopefully we get some actual feedback and responses from people this year. I think I'm done picking ACC teams.
Yeah.
Just eh, every time we pick ACC teams, nobody responds. Like, I get it. Y'all are still high off of basketball season, but like the rest of the country has moved on to
Yeah.
football, and we would like to talk to you about it. But that's another story for another time. As always, if you guys want to keep up with the latest on the podcast, follow us on social media at Nothing Not Finer Pod on Instagram, at Finer Pod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up and you can find us there. But always remember, y'all, there is nothing finer in the land.
And a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.